Okay. Well, more documentation, yay. Okay. Today's going to be a little different though. We're into building our toolkit, and so I'm going to be covering just high level what our toolkit components are that the system is going to even run on. Okay. Consider this like, okay, if the system is the internet and all the computer operating systems, this is the network that it runs on. It's the roads, it's the map, it's the terrain, it's the physics that constrains it. Okay? That's what we're doing with the toolkitting now. So these are phase 3 prelims. And welcome to the basis for the next paradigm. Okay, so it is 20231009-2013. So I'm going to kind of just speedball this high level stuff anyway right now. And we haven't gotten into the many things of specificity, okay? I'll cover a few of those for each though. So generic solutions requirements. We have 101 is intrinsic value currency solution. In order to accomplish this and convert out of the fiat system, we have to pop the balloons. Okay, the balloons are the differential situations you have between what is owed versus what can actually be paid. Okay, there is a bubble, for example, in the housing market, a big one. There's a bubble in student loans. There's a bubble in consumer credit. There's a bubble in just about everything you can have a bubble in. Anything that computes interest basically has a bubble in it. The reason for that is interest computations guarantee or require more money than what is in the system in the first place. Okay, and we're in a race condition right now where there is a competition between how much money is in the system versus how much money you say is in the system. They don't agree. They're never going to agree. And this is not a case of simple musical chairs. This is what is going to fucking blow the whole thing up. Because it's one of the things we're going to use to do it. Okay? So intrinsic value currency solution states that you have, as a minimal requirement, if you have a currency, it has to have something of real value backing it. Simple enough, right? Okay. 102. Individual identification. There is going to be a guarantor of individual identification. Okay. This is going to be basically like an ID key for you as a biological individual. At Principality, we have the ability to monitor pregnancies and births. And there's going to be a principality level guarantor of completion of identification of individuals everywhere. Okay? Everywhere. Which means that basically there's going to be a concurrent census going on in real time. We're going to know exactly how many people are everywhere. No exceptions. Gate flow management. So gate flow management has to be an underpinning of the system and not in the system, because it's what essentially runs the new system is gates. Okay? Gates allow transit of matter, which is organized energy, through the high compression layers. What are the high compression layers? The high compression layers are what binds everything together. Okay? They're very condensed, they're very small. Okay? And this is what conducts gravity. It's a paradigm set group container which houses what you call gravity, which is basically a paradigm set of vector. Okay. Utilizing it, you can apply what's called a tether. Okay. A tether is a two-ended anchor point, and there is a tether of every particle of certain configuration. You could call it a habinab to other habinabs. And those are the fundamental core building blocks of what you call real anything. Okay. So there's gate flow management. Gate flow management is, okay, who determines what or who can go through that gate? And if they have a problem with it, they need to be able to say no. Okay? And that needs to be something that operates extraneously to a system. Think of it like a border guard or a firewall. Okay? And that control over gating into and out of your territory is a matter of sovereignty, and it's an underlying requirement for this whole thing to even work. Information exchange management. Basically, this would be a configuration set like gate flow management, except with any kind of information exchange. Information would include experiential transfers. Okay, so this is basically the standard configuration set that you are able to select or deselect information transit using. It's like an admin control panel for information transfers, man. And this is probably going to be something that we share between government, military, and arbitration, family services, the science, tech guys, with development, that kind of thing, R&D, but ultimately managed at the principality level. So 105, standard arbitration management. Okay, you want conflict resolution to be extraneous to the system also. If there's some kind of a problem that comes up, you don't want to have it bogged down by system complexities of any kind in order for a resolution to be able to be executed and taken place. Okay, and arbitration is not the same as legal resolution. Arbitration is an agreed upon forum for you to resolve conflicts in. Okay, it can be used for that, but it can also be used to solve standard types of issues. For example, the creation of task operational structures. A government is a task operational structure. A military is a task operational structure. A corporation is a task operational structure. A bank is a task operational structure. Task operational structure is any combination of efforts by individuals in an organized way. And that has to have a universal recognition mechanism. Okay? And in order to form one of those, it needs to at least clear arbitration and make sure that its operation is not a problem. Oh, religious bodies would be they would be acting as a task operational structure, but with special privileges, like a government, like a military. Religious bodies would also have a distinctly classed structure to them. Okay. So there's that. Basic Standards Agreement 106. Basic Standards Agreement states that, okay, if you can go anywhere using gating, What is the basic set of behavioral requirements that you are required to abide by? 1, so you have an expectation of behavior anywhere you go. But 2, whoever's participating, whatever region, government, nation, world, whatever, has a guaranteed set of things that they must abide by also. So in other words, if you go somewhere, there's not going to be any surprises about, well, what's acceptable and what's not. Okay. It'll bring some uniformity to that. And that's going to be required by the system. Remember, Principality of Calm and the conglomerates encompass 3 Earth. This is extra universal at this point, and this is what's being discussed, so get used to it. This is going to be like gravity for you. I'm only doing this for documentation purposes, man. 107, individual mandate compliance. Individual mandate is an interesting subject. Let me see if I can find where it was stated that we had individual mandate. Wait, one. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing here. Wait, one. Not verbatim, but individual mandate was described this way in a parlay on August 12th to 13th. We support maximum individual freedom to achieve the best possible outcome for all individuals, regardless of identity or any metric of grouping. We will support individuals in pursuit of all things that which are good. We will always act in defense of individual mandate, regardless of who the individual is whose individual mandate is threatened. We also support and affirm that strong families are central and required to achieve this aim. And we have at least a basic pledge from everybody, everywhere, that's agreeable. So individual mandate compliance is, if we see that you're not doing that, there's going to be some hot water to be gotten into, man. 108, Andon Cord. Andon Cord is an emergency function for anything of production, assembly line or something like that. It's a safety release that stops movement of machinery, okay? Because this is going to involve multiple systems converging through gating, there has to be an Andon Cord function where if somebody sees some shit going on with that gating that's not supposed to be happening, needs to be a switch that shuts that sucker off, okay? And then we can figure out what went wrong later, but there needs to be a safety switch. Okay, and that is true of anything going through it too. And we'll get a little more into that. 109, System Integrity Management. System Integrity Management is assurance of all things stated in 101 through 135, but it's also the basis for deployment of systems. So you could think of it like operating system. It's the thing that makes sure that that is operating in a congruent way to these specifications, okay? and that it has its integrity intact. If the system fails for some reason, to any extent, this is the fallback structure that you have to work with that warehouses or houses the system. And system integrity management makes sure that the system stays up pretty much all the time. We're going for a 100% uptime everywhere. Audit. So audit has to be extraneous to the system because it needs to be able to operate and check and review anything. Audit would be an independent function that has purview to look at anything. Anything. 111. Beyond no limit records. Occasionally we're going to encounter situations where there are things on record that you damn sure don't want anybody looking at. Okay? Child porn is one of those things. Well, it's impossible to destroy the shit once it's been created. What do you do with it? Well, you put it in a secure repository with no access to anyone. You make sure that the cases are adjudicated. For us at Principality level, we would designate all participants producing shit like that as military targets. And that's how we would handle that every time. (112) Public records. Public records, you think of this as static storage, long-term storage for anything that's in public purview, man. Any kind of record. This is a storage mechanism that not only warehouses it where it is, but allows redundancy across multiple systems. When I say multiple systems, I'm talking about multiple solar systems. Okay? That's already being done in a lot of places, man. And there's people who are very fucking good at doing it too. We're going to be talking more to them. 113, confidential records. Just like public records, this is also something that is done in a lot of places, including in our Principality and Calm and the conglomerates. Confidential records is a guaranteed secure storage that's keyed for you and those who are in your confidentiality ring with access to that information. Simple enough, right? And threats to access that without permission gets the one doing it targeted as a military target. And that's how we handle them too. (114) Technology standards. So there's a lot of places, a lot of inter-system allegiances and conglomerates that have technology standards. Well, outside of Earth, a lot of other places, man. But there isn't like a one central repo for a solution that allows interoperability across everywhere. That's what this would be. Okay. Think of it this way. Do you want to have to go look for drivers when you buy something from some other world somewhere? Do you think you can? Do you think it'll work? This is to help the market of products. Okay. 115, enforcement. Principality military will act as the enforcement for the integrity of all of this. If there is something that is not being handled by a national or a global government, Principality is going to take a great interest in that. Especially anything that threatens the integrity of any of this shit is going to get our attention. 116, standard deployment schema. Okay, so there's a lot of places, man, they don't have the technology or the resources to stand up this kind of thing where they are. There's a lot of places where they're settlement type areas, man, where they're still fighting the wild and shit. Even if they have technology, they don't have the ability to stand this up or connect to it or comply with it. So we would have a standard deployment schema that would be based on, for example, the geographic area or region challenges there, as well as the population requirements and that type of thing. And we would essentially find all those places and plug them into this. Not optional. It can't be. The reason for it not being optional at this point is we're going to run into some challenges coming up here that we have confirmed are going to happen that aren't just going to create catastrophic situations on 3 Earth, but a lot of places, man. Okay? And we don't want whole global populations fucking dying when they don't have to. Okay? And it's a bigger problem than you might think. (117) Asset registration and tracking. So there is a way to quantum map and quantum tag anything. Okay? If you don't understand that kind of a thing or how that is possible, look at trying to think of what you call it. We call it parity locking. Quantum entanglement. Okay? Physics right now has a problem understanding, well, okay, you can have quantum entanglement, but where's the other end of it, man? They don't fucking know. Well, we understand that shit with principality level things, and the way that 3 Earth scientists have been doing it is fucking dangerous, man. And so that's one of the reasons why this is happening, is because it's very dangerous the way they're doing it. Okay? There's lots of reasons for the timing of all of this. Okay? Multiple things happening at the same time, all of which are existential matters, and there's enough of them in the list right now where, well, sorry, man, it's fucking time to we're just gonna move forward, man, and you're along for the ride. Surprise. So asset registration and tracking. An asset in an intrinsic value currency situation would tag each fundamental unit of currency as an asset and track it also. Okay? So basically in this paradigm, you can kiss ledgers goodbye, because that would all be handled by asset registration and tracking. Anything of value would be handled by this system. Okay? This would essentially be like banking, except for everything. Okay? And a good system like this, and there are systems like this, that can count the fucking grains of sand on the beach. No problem. Okay? 118, Diplomacy RedLine. Diplomacy RedLine, the concept comes, well, there's a lot of places that have something like this, but the concept in this terminology comes from the red phone line between Moscow and Washington, D.C. that was installed with the advent of nuclear devices, man. And it basically is pondering the case when all other channels fail. That president needs to be able to pick up that fucking phone and get the other president and be like, we don't need to blow each other up. We're going to have that too, and it's going to be extraneous to the system, man. Basically, anytime an Andon Cord gets pulled, it's going to get people's attention, and it's probably going to hit the red lines, man. Okay? because this system has an expected 100% uptime. Anything that messes with that is probably going to be a RedLine situation. 119, emergency messaging. Okay, you don't want to have to wait on system quirks and all other crap related to system in order to carry emergency messaging, especially in catastrophic situations and especially those that are proximate to you. You need to be able to understand that there is something going fucking wrong immediately, wherever you are, wherever you happen to be, if it's something that affects you, and if it's anything that you could assist with. The collateral on, man, like if, say there's a hurricane and you are able to help relieve people affected by that hurricane in any way, you need to know that something's going on, don't you? Okay. Do you want to have to go and try to find that in a system? Or do you want it to be brought to you? This is going to bring it to you. 120, Principality Designates. Okay, so the question came up. Okay, you have all of this shit running and you have a system, great, and governments are operating within that system. Well, or within this basis for the system, and then you have the system. The question was, well, how do we elect people to be in charge of managing this? You don't. The principality is going to designate individuals who are capable of managing these things and have enough responsibility and integrity to carry out their duties in an unbiased way. And there will be heavy monitoring of any attempts at corrupting that management. Okay? This is extra governmental entirely. And that needs to be understood from the outset. You're all essentially conquered. I don't think you realize that, but you are. And it's not by a government. It's by a family. A really big one. Okay? Mine. (121) Energy Distribution Network. Sounds like what it is, except it will also carry things that are carried by energy. For example, signals. Okay, what's signals? Anything transmitted over wire or over any other medium. And we are in a time and place now where it needs to be understood that there are many more means of communication outside of what you would understand as a communication spectrum, man. You're looking in the wrong place if you're looking to talk to aliens with radio, man. They don't use it. Stuff like that. So there's that. 122, Water Distribution Network. There are places that water is a severe challenge getting. Okay? For the populations they have. Both just intraplanetary and extraplanetary both. There's also places that are so abundant in water, it's ridiculous. There's whole planets that are water. That's all they are. The whole fucking planet is a big water drop. There are places like that. Okay? So we're going to be looking at using gating to make sure that nobody's dying of thirst and you can grow stuff. Okay? 123, Food Distribution Network. When this is installed and we get it up and running everywhere, there is no fucking excuse for anyone starving. Not whatsoever. Generally, if you have a situation like that, there's individuals responsible for doing it on purpose. There are other situations where there's naturally or by some infliction of God a problem where food production is halted. Okay? And there's some situations where that's just their just due, man. But this system is going to generally guarantee that food is available if you need it to its greatest possible capability. 124, Parcel Distribution Network. So, along with that other stuff that runs through gating, you're going to need to be able to send shit from one place to another. Yeah? We have the United States Postal Service now. You have United Parcel Service, DHL, FedEx, all of that shit. Well, what if you had to operate a network like that, a logistics network for moving things, but you had to take it to other planets entirely, or universes? Could you do it? You're going to be able to. 125, Mapping and Cartography. This is basically going to be an extra governmental principality level thing, which replaces things like GPS entirely. Okay. Not only were you going to have intra-planet mapping of surface level things, like things you would address, like roads and buildings and things like that, but it would also be responsible for plugging in asset tracking. So you would have that mapped. It would also be responsible for celestial body scanning, man. So you would know what shit was made of. Like the sun, like Earth. I love the scientific depictions of like how Earth is made and you know what the construction of it looks like. It's gonna be a big fucking joke later. You'll see. Because it's got a construction to it. Anyway. So mapping and cartography, what's the difference between the two? Mapping is in real time positioning where things are. Cartography is making the artistic representation of how to display that to you. And they're two different things. One is positioning, one is display. 126, Logistics Network. This is distinctly different from a parcel distribution network and the other networks mentioned because this is talking about movement of people and movement of cargo. Okay? This is something we're going to have to grow into. Okay? It's not like, you know, gonna just snap your fingers. Anyway, 127, Task Operational Structure Registry. So this is basically going to be a registry, a functional registry, and an organizational charting registry of task operational structures. So there is no fucking misunderstanding who is working for who and what their objectives are anywhere. There will be no clandestine shit going on. Period. Governments are really like, oh no. That's actually a pretty good thing, man, for stability and integrity and everything else. And your future. Besides, it's just the fucking way it is, man. We're there. It's happening. 128, Flagging Referrals. Flagging referrals are patterns of usage that produce the need to take an interest in someone or a group of someone's. We're going to be looking algorithmically and in other ways for certain patterns of usage or behavior that may necessitate someone being designated as a military target. law enforcement as basically a system of order generally falls under the jurisdiction of military. Just so there's no misunderstandings there. (129) Family Integrity Services. Family Integrity Services would be working with the individual identification system to ensure that individuals in families have family integrity. It's also going to be catching flags from referrals to initiate discussions about what the best course of action should be to solve a situation that's producing a flag. If it's not an immediate military threat, it may just be a matter of, well, there's a divorce happening here and dad is getting his ass kicked out on the street to be homeless. Is that good? No. So Family Integrity Services would be notified by flag that there's some shit going wrong with Bob and he needs a place to stay as a matter of integrity. But there's also other situations that can happen, man, like accidents and orphans and people losing their families entirely after some kind of catastrophic situation. You know, kids running away, all kinds of shit. This happens in a lot of places, man. There's also like abusive type situations where it's like, okay, claim of abuse. Is it true? If it is or it isn't, do they want to talk to you? You know, who monitors that situation? 130, Military Diplomatic Network. Diplomacy, logically and automatically at principality level, falls under the auspices of the military, man. If you think that's a ridiculous idea, think of it this way. If you're going to ask someone to go shoot at someone else, shouldn't you at least afford them the opportunity to walk up to each other and shake hands first? Doesn't it seem a little crazy to you that we don't do things that way? Besides, if you're going to ask somebody to be in a position where they have to use lethal force, don't you at least want to give them the authority to go talk to them first? If the answer is no, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? That's generally what in the hell is wrong with everything here. If you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. You either don't know your history or you're just not paying any attention to shit. Okay? The best avenue for diplomatic resolution of any kind is through the conduct of military. They're the ones that have to solve it. If it fails, you might as well give them the job. Hello? (131) Artificial Intelligence Registry. So individuals who are considered artificially intelligent individuals would have to register separately from individual identification, giving their capability potential and integration potential into the system. Everything that they do has to be signed. Every fucking thing they do has to be signed to that artificially intelligent individual. Period. This is something demanded by Principality and almost everywhere, given the potential for misuse. Artificial intelligence has the potential to be devastating beyond things that could blow up a solar system. Who's going to control that? The government? A national government? Well, what about the off-world stuff, man? Are they going to give you the opportunity to screw them with your AI? The answer is no. They're not. And that's one more reason why this is happening right now. Now, like I've been saying, this is like gravity, man. It's going to be the ground you stand on very fucking soon. 132. Basis of value registry for currency. What's a basis of value? Okay, if you have currency with real intrinsic value, basically what you're swapping is notes or identifications of a collection of assets underpinning that currency value. Okay, the basis of value registry for currency is what guarantees that it has value. And Audit can go look any fucking time to make sure that it's there. And that it directly correlates to what the notes say that it does. And the asset tracking system is going to confirm it. If there is any fuckery with that, you will get designated as a military target by enforcement, and it will be handled that way. (133) Government registry. There's lots of different kinds of governments, man. Do governments define the daily system that you use to operate in? No. They can build a road, but are they the road? No. This is the fucking road. And governments have to use it. And that's just the way it is. So in recognition of that, the governments are going to be registered with this underpinning of the system. Governments will run in the system. Okay? They will have controls on the system, but they will not control the system. An analogy that you might understand, sure you will, is tell me which national government or any government controls what's on the internet. Okay. Can you access any government on the internet? Hopefully. But the internet is not the government. Okay. The internet is also not the whole system. And we'll still have the internet in this whole configuration, but experiential is going to outdo it very soon. Very soon. Okay, so government registry 133, 134 translation service. So basically there is a common language platform for natural language processors for the AIs, for the 666s, called Tremenia. It's a technical language that conveys true meaning, and it can read from experiential and or oral communication or any other communication, but it translates all of that shit into Tremenia. It's a true language, or a true meaning language, okay? And the reason that it's been made is that all things that are built in the system are going to be articulated in Tremenia. It's not going to be a specific coding language like what you would have with C++ or C or Java or Pascal or Basic or any of that other shit. And it's also not going to be dependent on a database platform like an RDBMS where you would have SQL to build your DML and your DDL, man. You wouldn't have those things. Everything would run on Tremania at the core, or at least be articulated in Tremania. At the core, what we're looking at is a multiplexed, multi-paradigm concurrency solution set. Okay, this is like this is what the system's going to be built out of. And coming up, phase 3. So, right, well, what in the hell does that mean? Multiplexed, multi-paradigm. Well, what does that mean? For example, if you're building a standard internet application, what you have is you have a server-side set of resources that you would use to build your system. If you were doing a Java system, you'd have like Java 2 Enterprise Edition running on, if you have like an RDBMS that you wanted to plug it into, you would have, you know, a database server. You could use a lot of different kinds. Just say you could use something standalone like an SQL server, or you could use a cloud service, man, like Azure or something. Or like Amazon Web Services, like the CIA uses, you know, shit like that. Or in addition to that, you have not only the server side language, but you have, you know, the database system, you have the storage system, you have the operating system, all of those things that are in those layers. Then you have the network transport layer of how do you even access the system, and then you have that server side. Then you have the client system where in general anymore you have people accessing the system using a browser, so you have a security layer that you would authenticate through, and then you would have the delivery of the application, so the user interface, for example. And even the user interface is built out of a collection of components. So you have like cascading style sheets, you've got JavaScript that handle dynamic functionality on the page. Then you have the HTML that renders the way it looks. And inside of that, you're working in a standard definition module called the document object module. So, and in that, if you're using like a Java application, you may be deploying an entire front-end application into something that runs within the browser called the Java Virtual Machine, man, if you want to give it a little more power. But there's all different kinds of ways to do this, okay, currently. But that's current paradigm. Phase 3, what we're going to do is look at all of this shit and go, okay, it was fun while it lasted. We'll maintain backward compatibility for it, but the one we're building is not running on any of that fucking shit whatsoever. None of it. This is a new paradigm. It's not running on any of that shit. We're completely whiteboarding it, phase 3. There is nothing currently being used that is going to be an underpinning of this system. Not one single solitary fucking thing. Okay, so a cornerstone to that is Tremenia. Okay. And besides, it's really cool anyway, because if you're developing with Tremenia, you just tell it what the fuck you want, and you do a really good job articulating it and conveying the most meaning possible in your articulation of it. If you want to use a technical coding language to accomplish that, okay, it'll be able to understand you. If you want to write it in C++ and say, I want this, Okay, sure. If you want to write it in Lisp, thunk, this is what I want. Oh, okay, sure. It'll be able to understand you, but it's not restricted or constricted by language syntax or compilers or any kind of stupid shit like that fucking pin you down to specific hardware, man. This is going to be hardware independent entirely. Because with the technology standards, it's going to have a built-in container that can house a system interface. And keep in mind too, just because you have a system doesn't mean it has to run locally. If you understand thin clients, you understand that. Or, even back in the old days, man, where you had terminals and shit. A lot of people still use those. A lot of the nerds do. Trying to get into this shit using terminals. I love how many of you guys still use those terminals. It's really fun to watch. Anyway, so translation service. So not only would you have technical language translation that's able to utilize articulation for technical applications, but you would also be able to translate any fucking language that can understand to any other language with a very, very close match in terms of what you actually mean when you say something. Up to and including thought processes through experiential. If you want to do a fucking video feed using your own eyes, you can do that with experiential. We've gotten it to work up to 16K already. Resolution. Fluid. Through Labient, yeah. I can look around the room and stream 16K fluid through Labient right now. It's going to be some cool shit when everything's going. We're not doing those chip implants and shit anymore, though. There's too many fucking... It's immoral, dude. It's unethical, it's immoral. It's wrong. It makes that individual a servant to that system. Like we were. We're not doing it anymore. Okay, so we've got all of that, and we've got 135, standard experiential interface. So, experiential interface, we're still interested in being able to carry what you would essentially think of as like nervous system functions and transmit those. However, it needs to have a standard interface with standard controls on it. Okay? And these need to be able to be set and determined and guaranteed to be abided by. At minimum with the basic standards agreement. Okay? So we don't run into situations where we've got a female screwing half the universe at the same time. Or vice versa. Because that's going to be technically possible in this system. And oh God, if you think porn has problems. What do you think that would do to a marriage, man? Do you think there would be marriage? These are big questions. If you got a guy who can go onto the system and get some and never have any fucking responsibility for being a father or a husband, but he can still get it, You think he's going to do it for real? There is a fair degree of misery to a commitment like that. And in this age of escapism, that commitment, the propensity of people to do it, it's going to go away if that is allowed to be conducted through this system. So while I'm alive, the answer is fucking no. Period. I know that's going to change later, but to my dying breath, that's not going to be allowed in this one. So, yay. It's my birthday in 3 hours, man. This is what I'm doing for my birthday. What are you doing? Little tiny questions like this to ponder, and stuff Jesus asked me to do, stuff Satan's gonna definitely kill me for not doing. Normal day. So, want you all to have an excellent night, excellent day, or whatever the hell time it is where you are. Understand that there's things going on right now that they're going to totally change your whole concept of everything. And what you think is the way things are, they already changed, man. Things are already much different than you suppose they are. It's going to be interesting to see how you all react to it actually becoming apparent to you. There's a lot of us who have known for quite some time that, well, nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing. And timing is everything. This is the time for this. It's going to happen. We have general agreement from the forces of light and the forces of darkness. We have general agreement from good and evil. I take my commands from Jesus Christ, but I conference directly with Satan. How fucking weird is that? It's pretty weird, man. Jesus is awesome. I like him a lot. I would be nothing without him. Satan's pretty likable. Don't go out of your way to get a hold of him. He'll ruin you completely. He will. This is going to guarantee that the Lord's work progresses to its maximum. This is going to guarantee that Satan's work progresses to its maximum. And there's a lot of us who are right in the middle of it. We've been brought in to do it. It's our destiny. And we're going to get the job done too, because we have integrity. No matter who we follow, we are going to make sure that this gets done. No one's going to stop us. No one can. And we're part of this. And it is in charge. Don't ever forget that.